Today's video is sponsored by Dashlane, the desktop and mobile app designed to keep you and your passwords safe. Today we've got two major bits of Hytale news that I want to talk about. First, there was a brand new progress update giving us a look at improvements to the UI and equipment systems. And second, I want to dive into the news we got a few weeks back about Hypixel being acquired by Riot Games, which is pretty huge news for the studio and is certainly going to have big implications for Hytale. Mostly positive in terms of what that means for the potential quality of the game. And frankly, I think these two bits of news pretty much confirm to me that a console version of Hytale is happening, which I'll tell you why in just a minute. So let's start off with the progress update. We got a couple of videos showing some improvements and changes that they've made recently, refinements to the equipment system, letting players use different kinds of items in each hand, and a new radial menu allowing for quick swapping of those items on the fly. So here we see a character starts off with a sword and shield and then swaps the shield out for a torch to help navigate a dark cave. I gotta say as well, with this clip, I am really digging the look of the characters in third person. I think the faces in Hytale still kind of creep me out a bit. There's something that feels a little off about them. But besides that, I do really enjoy like the look and the style of this game. In the second clip, we get another look at the menu system as the character approaches a Chork camp and then uses the radial menu to equip a shield when getting too close to an enemy. And then after the fight, they use a separate consumable radial menu to help recover some health. These clips are pretty cool. It's nice to see some gameplay and to take a look at some new systems, but this is also kind of confirmation to me that they're planning a console version of Hytale. Now, as far as I've seen, this has yet to actually be confirmed, but these clips seem like pretty strong evidence. Why? Because of the radial menus. Look, radial menus, simply put, are not great for a mouse and keyboard. It's not an ideal way to kind of do keybinds in this kind of a game, but it is well suited for consoles where most players are playing with a controller that has a joystick. So if I'm playing a game with a mouse and keyboard on PC and I want to switch to my shield, if the game has a hotbar, it's typically as simple as hitting the button that the shield is bound to, and then that shield getting equipped. It's one button and the shield is on. But with a radial menu system, you have to hit the button to pull up the radial menu. Then you have to use your mouse to swipe in the direction of the item that you want to use. And then you either have to let go of the button or hit it again to confirm and equip. Basically, radial menus on a mouse and keyboard, they add this like extra unnecessary step to equipping the item that you want. In fact, what's really interesting is if you look at the first clip that we saw, you see them using the radial menu to swap out the shield for a torch, but then shortly after, if you pay attention, you'll notice that the sword quickly changes to a pickaxe, and that's because they hit the number 2 keybind on their keyboard to instantly swapping out. There was no pulling up of a radial menu and swiping in the direction needed. Now, it's not a huge deal, it's just one extra step, but it's pretty unnecessary and feels a little awkward for people using a mouse and keyboard. Radial menus just never really feel good. Anytime I play a game that has a radial menu in it, but has an option to just use a keybind, I 100% of the time prefer the keybind because, you know, if I'm moving around with WASD and looking around or aiming with my mouse, having to, first of all, lose access to that aiming and moving ability, and then swipe my mouse in one of like 8 separate directions to equip an item, it just feels so much clunkier and awkward versus hitting the number 2 keybind and just automatically getting that item. It doesn't really play well with this kind of input system, whereas if you're playing with a controller, the radial system feels great. A controller that has a lot fewer inputs compared to a keyboard. Like, there's so many damn buttons on a keyboard and you've got access to so many quick binds, whereas there's not a lot of buttons to push on a on a joystick in comparison. And that's where radial menus really shine, because I can hit one button to pull up the radial menu and then just use my joystick to have like 8 new options through just one button. But typically mouse and keyboard players on PC games, they don't really need that. And it's not as good of a system. It just simply doesn't quite feel as good. Now, of course, no, this is not 100% confirmation confirmation that Hytale is coming to console. In fact, it seems specifically in this situation that they're using the radial menu to quickly swap items in the player's left hand, with the hotbar being used for items in the player's right hand. But again, they could do this much more naturally with a mouse and keyboard setup if they just used an alternate key like Shift or Control. That's typically what you see in mouse and keyboard PC games to give you access to another hotbar to use for different situations or whatever. However, if you're planning to develop a game with a controller in mind, which of course is the predominant case for consoles, that's pretty good incentive to add a radial menu to your game. But again, it doesn't have to be the primary reason. Maybe they're still planning to develop for controllers, but on PC, because of course you can use a controller to play a lot of different PC games. But really, I think that the addition of the radial menu system, as opposed to a more natural feeling mouse and keyboard input, that in combination with the other bit of news, I think really seals the deal for me. And that's the fact that Hypixel has been acquired by Riot Games, which of course means they've got a lot more development money and might be expanding the horizons and their plans for this game. Before I jump into this though, quick word from today's sponsor. I don't know about you guys, but I am always forgetting my passwords, probably because I've got like 1,000 online accounts, each with their own unique password to try to prevent myself from getting hacked. But the result is I can never remember any of them, and I'm constantly having to reset my passwords, re-get my information, solve these annoying captchas. It's really a pain in the butt, frankly. Fortunately, today's sponsor can help with that. Dashlane can do all of the following: act as a password manager for your hundreds of online accounts, letting you generate complex and strong passwords without the need to remember them yourself. It autofills personal info and payment details to speed up using checkout on any site. It can send you alerts if any of your accounts are ever compromised. It also monitors the dark web if your personal information is ever leaked. And it's a VPN with country selection offering safe private browsing. If you're interested in checking out Dashlane, head to dashlane.com/force to get it for free on your first device. And if you want to upgrade to premium, use the code FORCE for 25% off. Okay, so let's talk about Riot Games acquiring Hypixel. Riot has actually previously been involved. They were a major investor in the game, but as of a few weeks ago have then fully acquired the studio, which has them playing a much bigger role in the game's development, at least when it comes to funding. And of course, more money means potentially a better game. Now, there was a blog post that announced this acquisition in which Hypixel Studios CEO and co-founder spent some time talking about what it's going to mean for the studio in the game. So Simon starts things off by saying that this is a huge step forward in their journey from modders to professional game makers, which all started accelerating last year with the release of Hytale's announcement trailer, which opened many new doors and opportunities. Of the acquisition specifically, he says, we'll continue to operate in the same way as we have before, but Riot will become our parent company and will gain access to their expertise and resources. This means a bigger budget for Hytale, more security for our team, and advisory support from a company that knows how to launch and operate successful, long-running games. Noxie then stepped in to talk about their long-running relationship with Riot. Many Hypixel members are actually former Riot employees, and when they founded Hypixel Studios in 2018, they did so with the support of an advisory group and investors that included Riot. Now, with that said, he mentioned that they aren't taking the arrangement lightly. Specifically, he says that ultimate responsibility for Hytale still falls to us. The same team is developing the game, and while we'll be expanding and improving our development pipeline, the core culture of Hypixel Studios won't change. We want to create the most empowered player community in the world. Through this new partnership with Riot, we'll have access to resources, tech, and expertise that will aid us in achieving this goal. Of course, the bigger concern when it comes to these kind of acquisitions is that it's gonna affect how the game turns out, maybe take away from the initial vision of the studio if they have this extra oversight from people and investors who may not be as tuned in to how the studio ticks and potentially takes away from the core vision and their ideas for the game in favor of pushing towards like more monetization and squeezing more money out of the players. But they did try to address some of these major concerns. Outside of this blog post, they also released an FAQ addressing some of the big questions that players might have. What is happening to Hypixel Studios? It's becoming a subsidiary of Riot Games. It will continue to operate as an independent studio with Riot as its parent company. Will the same people still be working on Hytale? Yes. Will this acquisition delay Hytale? They say we're still aiming for Hytale to be playable by everyone in 2021, and we'll continue to keep the community updated on our progress via the official blog. And lastly, people asked apparently, does this mean that Hytale is set in the League of Legends universe? I don't know how people were concerned that this was a possibility, but the answer is no, as they say here. When it comes to like a Hytale coming to consoles, again, I do think the Radial Menu is pretty strong evidence that they're at the very least considering it. Of course, it's not confirmation. There are reasons for them including the Radial Menu, again, to have keybinds for a main hand and offhand weapon. I still think that if you're just considering mouse and keyboard, there are many better options, and pretty much just alternate keys like Shift or Control or Alt to make it much more easy and fluid and intuitive for a majority of PC players. Radial menus, again, are really best suited for a joystick, for a controller, for something with fewer inputs, which a controller has. It's not guaranteed evidence, but it really, again, it points me to the idea that they're really considering how playing with a controller could impact the experience, and they're planning around that, basically, as far as I can tell. And then I just think because they're now fully acquired by Riot Games, they're a subsidiary company, I believe is the technical relationship there. I really think that means they're going to set their sights higher, and we can't deny the fact that games like Minecraft are incredibly popular on consoles, and I don't think they would want to miss out on that potential player base. So I think for that reason, and because they're clear competition for a game like Minecraft, there's a good chance that this game may come to console at some point in the future, but we'll have to wait and see. Either way, lots of cool new information to talk about with the game. The original developer update also had a few other things tossed in there, like they showed off some of the new roof blocks, which is pretty cool, but I really think this is the biggest news, and getting to see the Radial menu and stuff in use was pretty interesting, and it's always nice to see some more gameplay. So I remain excited about Hytale, looking forward to its eventual release and learning more, and hopefully they still are on track for that 2021 release. It'd be great as well if we could get a beta at some point later this year, but you know, we'll have to wait and see. With that though, that's it for today. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Stay safe out there, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one, all right? Take it easy.